Halito, halito, halito. Let's see something here.
Phoenix, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. I can. Yes, I can. Let's see.
I can't hear nothing.
What about now? Are you able to hear me now?
That's what I need. I don't got it.
Are you able to hear me now? Are you there, sir?
I still can't hear nobody.
Um,
Let's see everybody can see you.
yeah, I'm trying to. What about now? Are you able to hear me now, sir? Hi, Celestine. Hi, Beauty. Mr. Walter. Halito, Cho. Mr. Walter, are you able to hear me? Okay, so I have Mr. Walter here. Give me 1 second. And we were discussing some things going on in Indian country. Give me 1 second. So I'm going to pull up this article, Mr. Waldo, and I was discussing. Let's see. Let me do a screen share, and I'm going to pull this up. Can you hear me, Mr. Waldo? Let me call.
I can't hear you, Phoenix.
Can you or you cannot? No? Can you hear me? Do you want to go out and come back in, Mr. Waldo? I don't think that he is able to hear me, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me see if he can go back out and go back in.
Call me on my phone. We'll do it the same way we did it with the chief.
Okay. So I'm going to call Mr. Waldo. I'm going to get him on the phone so we can talk with him. We were going over this article that I'm about to share. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to get Mr. Waldo on the phone. Now, this affects what's going on in Oklahoma. You know, over the years, I've always spoken about Oklahoma and some of the myriad of different things that occur there and how it affects the rest of us in Indian country, especially for the non-recognized American Indians, right? I got Mr. Waldo here. Are you able to hear me now, Mr. Waldo?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, great. So I'm going to share the article. Let me see. I'm going to share the article.
That's the one about the Murphy case?
Yes. It actually has all of the Murphy cases too. So let me blow this up a little bit so everybody can see it. And this is, will the Supreme Court return Eastern Oklahoma to the 5 civilized tribes? Okay, so this is the case of McGirt versus Oklahoma. It sits at the top of the Supreme Court docket as Indian law case that will decide the issue of whether Eastern Oklahoma will be returned to reservation status. Oral arguments in this matter had been scheduled for April 21st, but the Supreme Court delayed the hearing to June due to COVID-19, but has now announced that McGirt will be heard on May 11th, 2020. So this was going down yesterday. Now, this starts off with Sharp versus Murphy. And let me read what the article says. It'll brief you on all of the different Murphy cases because there are several of them. And then we'll have Mr. Waldo. He's directly in Oklahoma, and also he's part of the federally recognized Seminole tribe. So, and we got the beloved Aboriginal Mac back. Excuse me, Indian Mac. It's going to take some getting used to not saying Aboriginal Mac and just saying Indian Mac. Is funny because when he calls, when we talk, I always say, "What up, Indian?" Anyway.
Yeah.
So Mac, just to brief you, I was speaking with Mr. Waldo in regards to that article that we were all talking about, what's happening with the 5 civilized tribes and the Sharp versus Murphy cases. Now there's Murphy versus Carpenter. There's several other cases as well attached to this. And Mr. Waldo, I had a couple of questions regarding the wardens and how they keep getting added to these cases. So when you see this one versus Murphy, that one versus Murphy, Carpenter versus Murphy, these are all of the wardens that Murphy is adding to these particular lawsuits that he's filing in it. And it's a lot riding on it, particularly for the eastern portion of Oklahoma, which will affect, would you say, Nebraska as well, right? Yes. So go ahead, Mr. Waldo. The floor is yours.
Well, no, I tell you what. See, I know I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. But everybody out there that's got a cell phone or a computer with internet access, go and research the Murphy case and get a good understanding of what exactly they're trying to tell you, because that case is tied up behind your land patent deed. Now, Mac knows that a land patent deed is an interesting animal because a land patent deed is the highest form of land ownership in this system. A land patent deed also can never be sold.
That's correct.
Whoever the original people were that would issue the land patents are still the people who own the land. Everybody else just bought the right to use the land. This has the ramifications with Murphy because if they come back and have to divide eastern Oklahoma back to the nation, then you're going to have to be able to prove that you was a part of that nation. And the way you're going to have to prove that you was a part of that nation is going to be through your patent deed.
That's right. That's right.
This is why genealogy gets to be so important, because the patent deeds are attached to families. They're not attached to nations. You got your patent deed from a nation, but it was given to your family. The basics of Murphy case is that the Dawes Commission actually had no legal jurisdiction to even be in Oklahoma, or so-called Oklahoma, or in Indian Territory dividing up anything. Because if you go back and look at the map of Oklahoma, you will quickly discover that all of Oklahoma was Indian Territory.
I'm sorry.
The concept of half Oklahoma was Indian Territory and the other half wasn't, well, what they call unassigned lands, is a fallacy from the very start. All you gotta do is go ask them Caddos, because they settled down there around Anadarko, and that was what was considered Oklahoma Territory.
Wow.
But where this comes in at is because of Murphy case and them having to go back and give the lands to the people who actually own the land. That means that those Creek Freedmen may have a good claim to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right. Right.
And I know for a fact that my great-grandfather, his land patent was issued, and there's a whole town called Eufaula sitting on top of it.
Right. Right.
So see, now we starting to get into some serious ramifications about how we gonna deal with this dividing of the
Hello, everybody there?
Right. Right. Right.
But their territory may fall itself under dispute between the land patent holders. The whole game.
Right.
This has ramifications all the way back to the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek, which ain't never been rescinded, which said that they were supposed to be protecting us from all interlopers.
That's right.
Yep. I'm looking at the treaty right now. I said I'm looking at the treaty right now, Dancing Rabbit Creek. I'm looking at it right now. It was not supposed to be incorporated or turned into anything. It was supposed to stay the family's land.
Right.
Yep. It was never supposed to be touched.
Now, and
see, the Creek Nation, they had a thing about selling their land anyway. All you gotta do is go look and see what happened to William McIntosh. But you wasn't supposed to ever divide the land in Creek Nation. You know, it was almost civil war in Oklahoma behind that concept. You see, because you had different factions wanting to do different things. Creek Nation never really gave the United States government their complete role.
Right.
So what you see on there listed as the dog road for the Creek Nation, understand that's incomplete. The only actual role they have . 1,776 Creek Indians listed on the dog roll. Every one of them look like me.
I know that's right. I mean, not
the dog roll, the Dunn roll.
The Dunn roll. Right.
The Dunn roll. The Dunn roll actually links back to the towns that they was living in.
They were living in prior.
1869.
Right.
You had 3 towns that we had the majority of the population. You had Arkansas colored town, you had Norfolk colored town, and you had Canadian colored. Them was all Black Creek Indians. See, I had one of my great grandfathers sit on the Supreme Court of the Creek Nation.
Wow.
You see? And I'll tell you something else that's kind of funny, and you got to kind of take a minute to look through that, but if you go and check what was going on in southern Kansas right before the start of the Civil War, might give you a little different history on who is who and where they come from.
Right.
Because in 1861, before the Civil War had even got started, they already had people from Oklahoma going into Kansas that was labeled as freedmen. Now, how you gonna be a freedman if slavery is still in progress?
Right.
And let's get one thing real clear, because Indians did not own slaves. You had mixed breeds and intermarried whites living in Indian territory that owned slaves.
That's right.
See, if you go down to the BIA, the only people they consider to be freedmen is Cherokees. So who was all these other people they call freedmen? And Mac, you know this is written up in the Treaty of 1866. Who the hell are these Africans that had no interest in the land?
Right.
Them Africans, them is white folks. That's what I've been trying to tell.
This is the reason why I bring that question up, because see, that's the question that they try to look at here, man. In the year 2000, they kicked the freedmen, so-called freedmen, out of the Seminole Nation. We was put back in our voting status a couple years later.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Now, you got to go back and think, when did you become an African American? Because when you became an African American is when these people looked at them trees and say, oh, they're the Africans that had no interest in the land. This is what's going to throw the patent deed in the confusion. So the first thing we got to do is identify who these Africans is that had no interest in the land and get them out the way.
That's right. Oh, I think I found their children.
Well, yeah, I think we found their children too. I'm gonna tell you another little thing. Know that Elizabeth Warren kind of put you off on, and didn't nobody really catch what was going on.
Oh, yes, I did.
Like if one of us could step back and say, my grandma wasn't Indian, you gonna have white folks that's gonna be able to sit back and say the same damn thing.
The same thing. And I'll tell you, they were trying to clown Elizabeth Warren.
You can't automatically say who's this and who's that because it's actually all based on what your genealogy says.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
It's your genealogy that leads you back to your patent deed. Now, every Indian in the United States is covered under some treaty. If they're not covered under a treaty, you better question the Indianness.
That's right. That's right. Every last one of them, even
each one of them,
misclassified.
Each one of them treaties has a provision in there that says that the United States government was going to protect them people. Now, has the United States government actually been doing their job in protecting these people?
Absolutely not. But
now, somebody need to go back and pick up their phone again or pick up their computer again and look at what a fiduciary is. Because that's exactly the position the United States put itself in when they started dealing with the Indian nation. They are fiduciaries, whether they want to admit it or not.
Right.
And as a fiduciary, they have to, by law, look out for your best interest.
There would have to be a beneficiary.
Okay, now here we go back with everybody under these treaties, because that means you covered by them statements right there.
Yep.
And that means the United States has to serve.
Organized enough to move in a large enough group to start making some noise in this game. But the minute we stand up and start making a little noise in this game, you watch this shit start changing. Everybody in the world know who you are but you. Everybody in the world is waiting on you to stand up and say who the hell you really are and move into what they trying to give you paperwork calling your proper position.
That's right.
That's why you don't need no paperwork. Your paperwork is your bloodline. That's your paperwork.
Say it again, sir.
You don't have to go fill out nothing. You ain't got to write nothing. All you got to do is figure out where the hell you came from. You know,
now,
this ain't no magic wheel where you just come through and spin the wheel and all of a sudden, jackpot.
Right.
That don't work like that. Come on now. Just this week alone, I done heard of 2 projects that's priced well over $100 million that we could actually tap into. But we're not organized to a position where the people with the money and the power can work with us.
Right. That's right.
So now we're stepping on our own damn toes. But as long as they keep us disorganized, they ain't got to play with the rules that they wrote.
That's right.
That's how come they broke up the Indian nation to begin with, because it's easier to deal with people individually than it is to try to deal with a mass group of people. So if you start moving in mass, you start moving weight around. Now, this thing here we messing with now, this thing is growing everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
In some kind of way, we got to figure out a way to sit down and put this mess together so that we can go in front of some people and say, hey, remember them treaties y'all wrote?
Yep.
Let's get on it.
And how do this is also where you are going to attach yourselves. And look, there's always going to be a way that you're still able to challenge these things. If you have the same common ancestors as the people of the federally recognized tribes, then what more are you expecting? And there should be some things that you're expecting, but are people clear on what they are? What are their expectations exactly?
When are we gonna stand up and start moving in a group?
Right. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing.
When we can actually address some of the issues that we have. Ain't nobody talking about us. They deal with black people's issues. They deal with Native American issues. They deal with white people's issues. They deal with Asian people's issues. They don't deal with our issues.
That's right. That's right.
And it's our issues that the whole game is built upon. But we don't want to play by any kind of rules. We want to be wild all the time, and you can't get nothing done being wild all the time. I'm sorry. Sometimes you got to sit down and think and learn how to make that system do what that system was supposed to do from the start.
That's a fact.
That's right. It appears that there are a lot of people that are afraid of that. That is why they are teaching, anti-government. And then they don't even get specific and like do a cool breakdown. Like which part of the government would that be? Your legislative branch? Are you mad at the judicial branch? Can people even compartmentalize and put them in each of those 3 slots, appropriate receptacles, if they knew where to place all of their problems at? That they're with the government that they're looking to fix? Would they know which direction that they, have to, what tree do they have to bark up?
Here's the deal with that. You remove yourself from that government, you remove yourself from your treaty protection.
That's right. And that includes changing the names and getting rid of your inheritance, the Elbays, the Israels, and all of that.
And that's what they've been trying to do all along, is get you to become somebody who you ain't.
Right.
Because the fewer they got to deal with, it's just like what they're going to have to deal with here in Oklahoma. How we going to deal with all these people that's got these airships to all these land patches?
Mm-hmm.
Got a little secret for you folks. We outnumber them by a whole long shot.
Oh, by far. By far we do.
So
Absolutely.
now, all of a sudden, there's a real reason for the people who have land patents in their family that trace back to Oklahoma to get a grip on them land patents. Call down to the Creek Nation. Call down to the Seminole Nation. Call any one of those 5 nations and have them start searching for your patent deed. If your family can show connection to this state at 19th in Indian territory, you start looking.
You're breaking up. Say that one more time. There you go. Oh, it sent Bob out of baby's boy. Okay, woke up, Mr. Waldo.
Lord,
There you go. There you go. There you go. You're back.
Okay. I said if your people was in Oklahoma in 1907, living in Indian territory, you need to start checking your records. There may be a patent deed or 2 down there on you. Now, I went down to the Creek Nation and I pulled 7 patents out of the Creek Nation, and I got at least 2 more to come.
Right.
See? Now, that's somewhere 13 acres. See?
Right.
And that's just one side of my family.
Right.
I have other patent deeds on the other side of my family.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yeah. And that's just including the time frame that we're talking about. That's not even going back in antiquity before any migration into Indian territory. So repeat that time frame one more time. What was that? The 1880s to when? 1914?
1898 to 1914. That's when the game got played in Oklahoma.
Right.
That's, what else happened in Oklahoma with statehood?
Say that again?
They took all the money from all them little small banks.
Mm-hmm.
And consolidated that money and started moving it out of Oklahoma. They stripped Oklahoma right at the start of statehood and tried to rebuild it again.
Right. Right.
Oklahoma was supposed to be an all-black state, but you can't have an all-black state unless the Indians was black. Uh-oh.
That's right. That's right.
Listen, and you can look it up because that's exactly what they said Oklahoma was going to be.
Yeah, and it took them quite a while. They were actually trying to jumpstart it in the early 1870s. They were not able to become incorporated until so much later.
Yep.
And they were broke from the Civil War, so they had to recuperate. And that's why it took them another additional 20, 30 years before they were actually able to establish.
Well, now, here's the funny thing about the Civil War, and I'm still trying to get my mind wrapped around how this happened. You do know that the Laurel Creeks won the Civil War in Indian Territory, with us, the so-called freedmen, fighting right beside them.
Right.
But some kind of way you get up here to the year 2020, and ain't none of us showing up on none of the paperwork around there.
Mm.
But them treaties of 1866, and Matt, you know you can back me up on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Them treaties of 1866 was written by us for us.
That's right.
The Creek Nation Treaty was written by a guy named George Island. I used to have one of his descendants working for me. They kind of blue-black.
Mm. Blurple.
Thank you. Thank you. So you can't tell me my ancestors was going to write a treaty that was going to write me out.
Right. That's right.
The treaty ain't been broken. The treaty's been thrown on the ground. If anybody broke it, it's these so-called nations that broke it.
That's right. That's right. Mac is back.
But the Freedmen have never let go of that 1866 treaty.
That's right.
We didn't break it. The United States government didn't write that treaty because we lost the Civil War. They wrote that treaty because we won the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mac, did you have anything you wanted to add?
You can't tell it when you look into these nations now. And Mac know that too, because he's a Choctaw. He don't have to deal with them people down there.
That's right. Mac, are you able to hear?
Firsthand. Oh no, yeah, I was able to hear. I had got kicked out, and then I had to just charge my phone, so I'm on my laptop now. Everything is a lot better, but everything Mr. Waldo been saying, I mean, it's true. I'm letting them kick game because I feel like people need to hear it from more than just one or two people. You know what I'm saying? So Mr. Waldo he giving it to him straight. I've been down there. Like I said, I know firsthand that, for one, they hid my grandmothers and my grandfathers. They said that their names were other people, and or their parents were other people, and it wasn't. Even when I went in to the Indian records or the Choctaw Heritage Room, and it gives you the names of the people who was there in the earliest times when Oklahoma got established, and it didn't have my grandmother, mother, or father in there. So they were hiding the records. They're hiding a lot of information. And that's why it's very important for these people to get their ass down there, like Mr. Waldo said, and so we can make moves. You just staying at home is not going to get the job done. You relying on other people is not going to get the job done. You have to go investigate.
The Constitution to the Choctaw Nation at one time. And didn't the first line of that say, we the people who are representing the Choctaw Nation?
Yep. Yep.
It didn't say we the people of the Choctaw Nation. It says we the people that represent
the people represent.
Mm-hmm. Choctaws.
There's a lot of scamming going on, a whole lot of scamming. And like you said, Mr. Waldo, once a lot of our people wake up and get these records, it's ball game over.
It was all a big land theft.
Right.
Yep.
But part of the premise on all of that land traveling and swapping and stealing and everything was the deal was this. You give us your land here in this part of the country, and we will give you land back over in Oklahoma.
Right.
It was a deal.
And then in a lot of those treaties, it says that the government not only have to serve us, but the government has to give us currency forever, meaning the descendants. They pay you forever, because a lot of these treaties, it talks about the Indians deeding land out. So by us deeding land, you can strip the land from the United States if they are not honoring the treaties. And that's why we all need to get on one page. Although we from many different Indian nations and tribes, we are all Indians.
The treaty is not the people who are trying to enforce the treaty. This is what they know. This is actually what Trump knows.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are trying to use the treaty is not the people the treaty was written for. They don't have to honor the treaty.
Right.
Because these are some suspect people up here trying to push this treaty. The treaty say we supposed to be good from now on.
Well, see, that's them Africans. That's them Africans posing. You heard me, Brother Waldo?
Whoever them people may be.
Right. Right.
Because we still don't know who they was.
Fact. That's a fact.
But I know doggone well they wasn't me, because if they was, my genealogy wouldn't stretch back as far as it do with the nation.
Right. Right.
Don't playing with me. We ain't them people. But we gonna be penalized because they got it in the world that we is them people. And we have no interest in the land. See, that's a sneaky little statement they throw in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the end they turn. You gotta be African American.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
what land have turned. They stealing. And Murphy is about to put an end to the stealing.
That's right. Now, there's also that clause that I've mentioned several years back regarding Oklahoma and what is happening right now with the situation with, Oklahoma possibly being returned as a reservation.
Yep. That's what it was supposed to be. It wasn't never supposed to be broken up. And you surely wasn't supposed to break up not 1 inch of Creek Nation. That shit would get you killed. And it almost got a bunch of people killed down there.
Right. Right.
Because that's intriguing on people's land. And then, see, my thing is this, too.
Pride come in real handy.
Right. Right.
So that tells you about the war that almost was. This shit got ugly. It got ugly in 1861 when them people were trying to get the Kansas stuff. They tell you bleeding Kansas because them white folks was up there fighting, but you get to looking at it, you find bleeding Kansas because of the Indians down south that was dying. Feeding them rotten meat. Leaving them in the cold with no blankets or nothing to keep them warm. Running out of Oklahoma with Cherokees and Choctaws shooting at your ass.
People don't understand that, Brother Waldo. They don't understand that.
Live. They went to Kansas because the Union troops was in Kansas, and they thought that they was going to find some protection there, and all they found was even worse treatment. But they still regrouped themselves and came back down into Oklahoma and took all their shit back. And then took their asses out to Washington, D.C. and wrote what is now known the treaties of 1866. This is how it was played.
And now this is probably something that can go retroactive, right? Let me just read this small portion of the Oklahoma Constitution.
What's the first law in the Oklahoma Constitution?
Well, actually, I had went straight to Article 22.
Okay, well,
And this is
yeah.
Section 1, and this is alien and corporate ownership of lands. And it says no alien or person who is not a citizen of the United States shall acquire title to or own land in this state, and the legislature shall enact laws whereby all persons not citizens of the United States and their heirs who may hereafter acquire real estate in this state by devise, descent, or otherwise shall dispose of the same within 5 years upon condition of escheat or forfeiture to the state, provided this shall not apply to Indians born within the United States, nor to aliens or persons not citizens of the United States who may become bona fide residents of this state, and provided further that this section shall not apply to lands now owned by aliens in this state. Right, so it's like they give it to you and then they take it right back in the same breath.
That's what they did in Oklahoma. they gave it to you with the Dawes Commission and took it away with the Curtis Act.
So this is completely invaded by the exact same aliens and people who are not citizens of the United States, but being that they've been there so long, they're not going to make them move, but Trump's just going to make sure that the new ones don't come in and steal your shit. This is incredible.
That's it.
This is absolutely incredible. Peace, love, and light, young Cherokee. This is absolutely incredible.
But you know what? Article 6 of the Constitution supersedes that, because
indeed,
if we go to if you go to the treaties, Dancing River Creek Treaty supersedes Oklahoma's Constitution, because you remember they're dealing with descendants, they're dealing with the heirs, they're dealing with the people in this deal.
That's
so right. This is why the conversation is coming up to or coming up in Oklahoma. Well, what are we going to do with all these people? I mean, this is the law, and like Brother Waldo said, it hasn't been rescinded.
No.
You know, if they try to rescind it, do you know that means the land that our people left and deeded out to the United States, that gets snatched from them?
Yes.
Yep.
These are contracts.
See, if you break any part, the Indian nations right now, they stand in Oklahoma, are working under what's known as a 638 contract. You break that contract, you break the nation.
Yep.
They Indians by contract, not Indians by blood. They're not $5 Indians, they're contract Indians.
Correct.
Give them their right name.
Right.
See, maybe that's what we got to do, is give everybody the right name. Let's correctly identify these people.
That's right.
That's the only way this stuff gonna get done.
And then that goes back to the word of the century, genealogy, right?
Yep. It's all tied to your family.
Right. So now for the people that we've encountered, that have started creating new tribes that said that they are attached to the 5 civilized tribes, and they've been creating these side tribes. Right.
That ain't gonna work. All them tribes they create, ain't none of that gonna work, because none of them have a treaty to stand under.
Right. And
even
if they
start a tribe, that tribe is not protected by the same rights given under those treaties.
Right. That's just an association. It's not a tribe. And also in that instance, if they are doing a spinoff of their so-called original tribe, they still would have to have at least been rejected by those by the people that they are kin to, where their prospective nation is. So you can't start a Chautauqua tribe and you say that you are, here's my grandmother and grandfather on the Dawes Rolls, and you haven't went to the Dawes Rolls and either been accepted or rejected. You can't do that, especially in particular with those particular 5 tribes. You've got to be kidding me. They're
And you-
absolutely what the
and you gotta-
Iroquois thought, what the Iroquois
minute.
would have been.
You got to get through these 5 tribes because right now they're the gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
And all Indian policy is based on what these 5 tribes is coming up with.
That's right.
They're the only ones they really seem to be bothered with. At least that's the way it looks from down here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we gotta put pressure on these 5 tribes, the so-called 5 tribes,
That's
and
what
let them know y'all not running nothing.
you back. That's where we come in because we are the patent deed holders to the land. We are the ones that can enforce the treaties.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, that's what that patent deed did to you, man. It gave you the power to enforce the treaty.
That's right.
And because of that patent deed, that's like your receipt, man. You got that daggum thing, you know, using Indian because Indians only gave land to other Indians.
Right.
The state of Oklahoma took care of everybody else. That was that land run. That's under the Homestead
The
Act.
homestead.
When they was coming in here in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, you had 2 groups of black people in Oklahoma. You had Indian Negroes and you had state Negroes.
Mm.
State Negroes got their land under the Homestead Act. Indian Negroes got their land from their Indian nation.
Break it down, Mr. Hey, Brother Waldo, you got to break it down. That was deep what you just said. A lot of people not going to pick up on that. It's the real Indians on this panel.
How much simpler can you get? If you was an Indian, you got your patent deed from an Indian nation. If you was not an Indian, you got your patent deed from the United States government in Oklahoma.
That's
See, we gotta
in
understand-
Oklahoma. That's not the same as in Virginia.
Oklahoma, a whole different animal from the whole rest of the country.
Right.
That's why Murphy case is such a problem to them.
Right. Right. And
It's
such
not-
an important
it's
case.
not the same sandwich.
That's right. That's right.
When you come to Oklahoma, you come in here, it's a whole different ball game played around here because they know this is where the gate is.
Yeah.
That not start asking where the money's going because you're going to find it all going down there in Southern Oklahoma.
Oh, definitely won't be next to us.
No, it's going through the Chickasaw Nation.
The Choctaw and Chickasaw is some what's going on down there. Them is the key players to a lot of this stuff.
They was paying both sides of the field because you had them dealing with 2 different groups of people. See, they couldn't just, now, Mac, and I know you know this, according to the 1866 treaty, wasn't no Africans left in the Chickasaw and Choctaw Nation at the end of slavery.
Yeah, that was all supposed to get picked up.
People X number of days to get the hell out their nation.
X amount of days. That was it.
See? So everything that was left was Choctaws and Chickasaws. Where that land patent come from you got there, Mac?
Indian. That's where it came from.
It came from the Choctaw Nation, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Indians only gave land to other Indians. Keep this
So
in mind.
that's once again, people, he's talking genealogy.
That's the only way you can do this. You can't do this with no blood test. You can't do this with no hope or no prayer.
No DNA, none of it.
No DNA, ain't none of that. You going to have to get there. You got to get your birth certificate and the
Wait. Say that again, Mr. Waldo. You got to go get what? Birth certificates.
And death
That was brought up yesterday.
Oh, birth certificates, death certificates, because they establish a
They
connection.
establish your kinship. That's why that stuff that dude was talking yesterday makes no sense whatsoever.
No, but you notice the people that say they are Indians try to kind of like shoo it along as if, it was valid. And I think that's a problem. You got a lot of yes men and women, right?
Well, now they can guess and know all they want to, but the fact is still the fact.
Right.
That birth certificate that everybody's trying to get rid of is your key to figuring out where you're supposed to be.
Right. And unfortunately, again, like I've, and that comes in the beginning of people's understanding that something isn't right. What we were taught is not what it is. I get that, but it's 2020 now. And that information has absolutely evolved, especially the deeper that people have been able to get into their genealogy. So for the stagnation or whatever critical point that people are now lacking, and it's panic mode. So I think that has a lot to do with why they're attaching themselves to people that provide these false remedies.
Here's the thing, and anybody out there that's had any dealings with the United States government gonna recognize this just as soon as I say it. The United States government does everything in triplicate.
That's
there's
right.
a white form, there's a yellow form, and there's a pink form.
That's right.
So they've always done everything in triplicate. So even though they tell you these records can't be found, they lying.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the National Archives in the location that's closest to where your people live and look in the National Archives. The records is in there.
Brother Waldo, I tried to tell these people, stop listening to these dudes saying, oh, the record's been burned. All the records been burned. How was it?
They've been telling me that lie for 60 daggone years, and it's a bald-faced damn lie.
Yeah.
You know what let me tell you what they did. You go down to that National Archives in Fort Worth, who handles the records for this part of the Indian Territory, and you will soon find that the majority of the records is in a warehouse behind the building in microfilms and documents that they have not scanned into their system.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Those records are there, but they know that the information inside those records might mess around here and blow the doors off or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they did not digitize the records.
On purpose.
The records, you got to go order them and have to get the whole microfilm and read it yourself.
That's
now,
right.
you can do that for $35. And if you go to the National Archives and ask them, they might even tell you which record group to order the damn things out of.
Right. Because if you order the wrong record group, there are no backseas or refunds.
No,
you better know exactly what it is that you're looking for.
You can order Creek Records out of the Choctaw Records Group.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just ain't gonna work like that. You're gonna have to go to the Creek Nation Record Group to get Creek Nation Records.
Right. Right.
But the government has always been the government. They're gonna do things in threes. One copy stays with the tribe, one copy went to the county, and the other copy went to the federal government. Go find that federal government copy.
Right.
See, that's the one that's still gonna have some trails to it. Also, it is not the BIA that is the keeper of the Indian record. It's the Department of Interior. Now, I don't know how this works. Phoenix, you probably do. Mac, you may do. I'm pretty sure. But if you file a Freedom of Information Act with the Department of Interior, you will find that your records will start popping up.
Yes. Yes. I've talked about FOIA requests. They're not as complicated. I think, well, specifically, it depends on which issue. Usually, generally, my first encounter with the FOIA request was trying to find out stuff about a judge that, so in that instance, it was like, you had to find out what it is that you're dealing with, especially when they know everything about you and you don't know anything about them. And there was some complaints lodged against this judge, and people were very vocal about it, but it didn't matter if it wasn't written down. So I needed to find out where it was written down. So you have people that took different measures. I don't know what the disposition of their outcomes were, but thank goodness that they took those different measures, because had they went to the county to file the complaint where this particular judge was, they were going to throw it in the garbage as soon as I left the office and say, okay, ma'am, we'll get in touch with you. We'll have our guy call your guy, stuff like that. And none of your it just goes in a pile of ignore the shit out of the Indians' complaints and grievances, you know? So,
13.
right. So when you file those, that was my first experience getting the FOIA request. Some states are totally easier than others. And then there's of course, the federal level. Dig into these people that are all into your business. That's what I say. You have a right to do the same.
Well, you're going to have to.
Right. Right.
See, this is what the deal is, because if you want to keep participating in this system, especially in the era of the Rona, you better have some kind of way to fall back on something that's going to give you a little backup, because if not, they're going to take everything you own.
That's right. That's right.
They don't care about you like that. The more y'all they knock out the picture, the less they got to worry with later on.
That's right. That's
So
right.
no, they ain't trying to let you know nothing. They ain't trying to give you nothing. You're going to put in some work for this. But they know the only ones that's going to put in the work is the ones that actually want it.
Right. Right.
That's going to thin the herd on his own right. Because you got other people sitting around here talking about getting rid of your birth certificate instead of trying to tell you to go find your grandma's birth certificate. Damn, the place. This shit is crazy to me, man. And I try to stay out of this bullshit because I really don't understand how they think like that. But the shit is crazy to me.
Well, it is definitely, I would say, would boil down to, the irresponsible, conveyors of a lot of this information. People are smitten with smooth talkers, whether it's religious, or even in this case, whether it was religious or Afrocentric or any of those other instances. It doesn't appear to be any different. It's kind of, it's hard to separate them. It's kind of like the same sandwich. They come with different things. 1 minute it was the fez, then it was a turban, then it's fringes, and now you want to tickle feathers and shit. So it's
tickle feathers and shit.
I mean, it's just hard to maintain consistency when you have all these other things that end up doing harm to us instead of helping us get forward. And then you have the ones that are creating all of the chaos. You kind of have them playing a victimized, they play victim. You know what I'm saying? And the proof is in the pudding. Thank goodness for the entire catalog. And we've been spending the last couple of weeks. I got one of my little cousins that's a little geek. I've been having them download all my old stuff and things like that or whatever, so we can have the timestamp on it and be like, we talked about this, we went over this, so how did we get back to this, right? And you can kind of see where your growth is. So it's good. So from where you started out in 2014, 2015 versus where you are now, that's just in your walk of life. It's not just the fucking online Indian experience. Where are you in real life, real time? Like, what have you done besides, breaking the law with all these fraudulent documents and, all these weirdo things going on? What else have you done? Are you satisfied with what you have right now? If they gave the mic to the Indian right now, would you know what to say? Are you ready? Are you prepared? Have you done enough? Are you qualified enough to be able to articulate what it is that, you need to articulate? All of those things are important. So if the spotlight was to come tomorrow, who's ready? Who's ready? And who made people ready, right? Because there's going to be a place where this institution was a little better than this institution. These people here are going to score a little higher at Harvard than they probably will here over at Pace University, right? Things of that nature. So you got to be careful with what it is that you're absorbing. Definitely want to be careful with what you're absorbing, because if that time comes tomorrow, everything that you have absorbed should be sufficient.
It's going to come to the point that if you ain't absorbed it, you ain't going to get it.
Right. So if there's any dissatisfaction at this point, And this is for American Indians. This is not for everybody else, because again, people have drawn this, line, and they've made it clear. I want to respect them on their decision to make it very clear. There's no problem with that. That is absolutely not the issue. We just want that line. You can't play hopscotch over the line. You don't draw the line and then say, this side's mine, that side's yours, and then wait a minute. Oh, you got more square feet than I do. Come on, move over a little bit. No, you don't get to bump the line. You don't get to do that. There wasn't one there. There was actually a circle around us all. But when you drew that line down the middle, that radius, now we have to stand on those decisions, because every decision does come with some sort of consequences, right? Well, the consequences are that you have to respect the decision that you made. And whether those results end up being something that is agreeable to you or undesirable to you is completely based off of said decision that you made. Whatever decision it is, the righteous one, the one that is absolutely foolproof, contrary to what a lot of these bozos and incompetent people and foreigners and people who are just absolutely scared of oppressors and ain't never bang on nobody appropriately, right? One thing you'll notice is that they are going to be uncomfortable either way. They're going to be dissatisfied either way. So now they create the line and we say, you know what? You win. There is a line. You're right. You got it. That still ain't good enough. Come back over the line. Now they want to play tug of war and bring you back over to in your world where they made it very clear that the worlds collided. They don't belong together. This is where the confusion comes from. That's where the confusion comes from. The distractions, the complete, the pride, the being prideful, and the need to perpetuate this type of behavior that ain't never got us nowhere anyway. And in front, like you're the bigger person. No. In front, like you're the bigger person. But then when you ask to go back on it and look at, the legacy in real life, real time, not just what you see here on Facebook. Let's look at what the state of your family is versus now. See where your family was 5 years ago when you was trying to remind them and get the information out of them about you being Indian. Where y'all now? What people have you converted? Which one of your own family members have you brought back into the light? Like, hey, get rid of that. That ain't this. Look at the picture of grandma on the wall. You see who that lady is? That lady's this. Where's those type of stories? You never hear them. You never see them. I'm interested in knowing, because you're able to gauge how far people have gotten by the way that they speak, by the things that used to bother them so much, it doesn't bother you anymore. You're no longer afraid and petrified of police stops at the point where you've learned how to have conversations and make sure you don't get a nightstick upside your head, right? You're not looking to avoid all of these situations, and you're not going to be stubborn and confuse what's lawful versus what's legal and what's unlawful versus what's illegal, right? Because when you have these little tug of wars with, I hate the government. Oh, but they're giving out stimulus checks. Let me play citizen now. That's not the difference between public and private. That's kind of stupid. And, you got to be careful, because a lot of this shit you could be brought up on charges of treason.
That's correct.
You could be brought up on charges of treason. How real do they want to keep it? So if they feel like it's so hard out here, what do they think if they get charged with treason? What Moorish law would help them out of that? What declaration, what affidavit would stop that fire and brimstone from falling? I'd like to see a nigga that tried, and I'd like to see a nigga that was successful. And
I'm trying to tell you.
And if those people cannot locate any of those people where we can clearly see through the Department of Justice website or some sort of Pacer, somewhere where we could absolutely say, hey, this is the real goddamn deal. Because it was Pacer and those places in the newspaper where I was able to see these motherfuckers getting locked up for doing bullshit paperwork. Public information. I was able to see that. Why wouldn't I be able to see something that is going to be available to me as an American Indian that's going to benefit me and mine? It's all available in the same place.
Yeah, that nonsense ain't never helped nobody. All that's designed to do is keep you from where you're supposed to be.
Right. So that means
why they trying to tell you you're supposed to be everywhere else but right here.
But right here. So let me ask you, Mr. Waldo, wouldn't that be considered an agent of destruction? Because they like to throw this word of agents around.
Now you gonna ask me a question you already know the answer to.
Huh. Yeah, I know that wasn't fair, was it?
And just like Brother Waldo was saying earlier, see, and this is why I try to get these niggas to understand. You niggas think it's a game playing with people's property, playing with people's land. People in Oklahoma will erase your ass off the earth. Don't think that
They ain't playing down there.
no, I've been down there. Me and my grandfather.
Around here.
Yeah. Will erase your ass off the earth. And while these people sit up here saying, oh yeah, we are the Moors, the ancient Moors, we had control of this land, we the Hebrews, this is Egypt of the Americas. People see, and this is how you know these niggas, they don't get out, they don't travel. In Indian territory, your ass would be erased, playing these fucking games, trying to steal people's land. They will put you under the motherfucking ground, or feed you to the crocodiles, or feed you to the pigs. Y'all keep playing. You starting a war with tribes and nations, real tribes and nations, with your goofy ass.
Yeah. And I mean, something's gonna have to be done, because now at this point, if you think about it, even now, the 5 civilized tribes and the same tribes that these people are saying that they're related to have now complaints against people like Kalinago calling up with the hey, with this, with that, right? They have complaints with a lot of things that are going, that they have in experience as a result of these other niggas that have infiltrated, right? So now we have these issues. So now when, it's going to boil down to, they're going to have something to show for all of this, right?
Well, that's
you know what, Phoenix?
And another thing, while I'm saying this, as much as these people love to hug on me and Mac, right? Especially me, you know how much they adore Phoenix Moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you felt that there was some sort of conflict with whatever you assume that my genealogy is, I'm trying to figure out why y'all ain't putting it out there. Why can't you articulate it? What's the problem? Why are you so surprised that I have several different 10th great grandfathers? You don't know which one I'm talking about. But I'm talking about mine. You're not talking about yours. You're worried about mine. I'm worried about mine and not yours. So there's a difference here in how you're supposed to handle these kinds of situations.
Well, you know what? As an Indian, as an Indian and a landholder in Oklahoma, in Indian territory, you motherfuckers better watch who you talking to, because we are in control of your future, motherfuckers. So you might want to shut the fuck up.
Talk to us.
We play the Indians, the real Indians, the landholders, like Brother Waldo was saying, can have a very huge impact on your life. And if your family is down there in Oklahoma, let's just say your family moved into Oklahoma onto these Indians' lands. We could move you motherfuckers up out of these lands, because we are the landholders. So y'all playing games when the real Indians really have control of this shit. It can damage you. It could damage you. Get your shit in line. Let me take this call real quick.